right? Poetry's Poetry is so amazing. And so I'm a spoken word poet. Again, my name is B Light. I have an organization called Power to the Poetry. It's right there under my little name in the corner. But this piece is called Self-Respect. Beautiful butterfly, come out your cocoon, spread your wings and fly to the moon. The possibilities are endless. This universe is infinite. Emerge from the shadows and be magnificent. Negative energy ain't a friend to me. Love, light, peace, and positivity. I have no enemies, but my life isn't always good, and I don't pretend it to be. My body is a vessel, conscious of what I let into me. Mentally, not what I want to be, but one step is progress, so no stress. Get back in the gym, more reps. Work hard, then rest. Work hard, then rest. Give respect to myself. Prioritize my mental health, silence my ego and ask for help. I don't accept the cards I was dealt. To succeed, I will fail. I will grow. I will tell the youth all you must do is believe in yourself. I meditate on becoming great. I don't hesitate when I make mistakes. Every day is a chance to change. I'm constantly evolving, so I'm not the same. Every day I get a little bit better, calm under pressure. Adversity hits, I still keep my head up. Nothing more important than self-love, so I show myself love. I look in the mirror and give myself a hug, affirmations in between every breath in my lungs, intentional with every word spoken from my tongue. I know my blessing's gonna come. I visualize every single thing I ever want. It's all love. It's all love. Remember, thoughts become things, so believe in your dreams. Thoughts become things, so believe in your dreams. You can do anything. You can do everything. Follow your dreams. Okay, in the chat, I'm getting that some people can't hear me. Can most of you guys hear me? Can you hear me? Can I get a thumbs up if you can hear me? Okay, so I don't know if that's people's personal computers, but I'm getting a thumbs up that you guys could hear me. Could you put it in the chat if you're able to hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, I was nervous. I have no clue. Can't see anybody or anything. Thank you. So I just want us to remember the affirmation, I am love. If we all could say that, I am love. And just remember that it's all love. And yes, things get tough and they get dark, but just remember to love yourself. And sometimes that can be hard, right? And so, I'm really excited for this panel because I think this will help us come up with some maybe tools and techniques to remind ourselves that we love ourselves and that we are totally worthy of love. And just to set intentions, I would ask for your consent if you would like to join me in a breathing exercise. I just want us to do 5 deep breaths in and deep breaths out, and we'll go in through our nose, out through our mouth. And I want us to take in love, light, peace, freedom, all the positive, great, amazing things, right? And then let's release anxiety, fear, self-doubt, the feeling of unworthiness. Let's release that. So we'll do it 5 times. And please, if you would like to join me, you can. So in through the nose. That's 5 breaths. Thank you if you join me. I appreciate it. Thank you for setting those intentions. I really feel just so amazing right now. And also, I just want to give recognition to our indigenous and native people and recognize that if we live in this state or in this country, that we are on indigenous land. And I want to special shout out to the Puyallup tribe because I live in Tacoma. So I'm on Puyallup land. But let's get started. Let's rock out. Yo, y'all literally light that chat up. Like I wanna hear how y'all are feeling today. But so how are y'all doing? How are the kids doing? As the pandemic wears on, it's likely that the mental health burden will increase. So how are we doing? This panel is a discussion with subject matter experts that are going to speak on, mental health topics. And then also we're going to have youth speak on their lived experience with dealing with mental health. We hope to shed some light on issues and engage on ways to support. If anyone has any questions, please put them in the chat and we will address as many as we can at the end. So any burning questions you have about mental health, anything you might be going through personally that you feel like you're seeking advice on, you can just drop it in the chat. And then at the end of it, we'll do kind of a Q&A with your specific questions for the audience. So let me introduce our panel. I'm so excited to introduce our panel. So first, I will introduce Ryan. So Ryan, their pronouns are they, them. And Ryan is a MA, also LMHC, and is a licensed mental health counselor based in Seattle, specializing in serving BIPOC and LGBTQ emerging adults. Ryan works with individuals, couples, and groups, blending evidence-based practical skills with depth psychology. Ryan is passionate about supporting people experiencing multiple areas of marginalization in a challenging and ever-changing landscape. So Ryan, thank you for being on the panel. Infinite gratitude to and for you, for who you are and all that you do. Next, we have Tansy. Tansy, their pronouns are she or they. And Tansy is a senior at Rainier Beach High School, Go Beach, and the president of the Black Student Union at Rainier Beach, and as well as an aspiring artist. So infinite gratitude to you, Tansy. We also have Zeke. Zeke is healthy human, and his pronouns are he, him, and he is a holistic performance enhancement specialist who is focused on optimizing our youth through the way they interact with themselves, their food, and their fitness. Infinite gratitude to you, Zeke. Thank you so much for being on this panel. We also have Chikundi. So Chikundi's pronouns are he, him, and he is a junior at Franklin High School, and he likes to play video games and make some beats. So infinite gratitude to you, Chikundi. Definitely want to hear your beats. So you got to let us know like how we can hear those, because maybe I can do some poetry over those beats, like for sure, for sure. And that is going to be it for our panel. And then we have an amazing support team, and these wonderful women are the reason why this thing is happening. And they've been doing all the admin work and all the kind of behind the scenes work. And so we have Lydia, who is the program as program supporter, and then she's going to close with us with awesome resources. We also have Zaina. She's our tech support today. And then we have Natalie, and Natalie's monitoring the chat and our timekeeper. And infinite gratitude to you all. So happy to be here, that you're here, that you asked us here, that you organized this whole thing. So infinite gratitude. I'm tremendously grateful. Like I have a mindset of gratitude. Like my attitude is gratitude, straight up. And honestly, gratitude is what changed my life. If I just start the panel off, I really struggle with mental health. But I learned that it's a lot of things is a mindset or how you look at things and outlook. And so I learned to be grateful. Like it's a blessing that I can breathe. Like, yeah, I still have depression, but I can breathe right now. It's a blessing I have access to internet, that I'm on a panel, with amazing Black people, like super dope. I just went to see a play about Fannie Mae Hamer last night, and it was amazing. And she gave her whole life for our right to vote and was a civil rights activist. And so we are our ancestors' wildest dreams. So I want us all to remember that we are absolutely our ancestors' wildest dreams. But let's get started. So I'm just gonna kind of bring the panel on. If you all want to unmute yourself, and let's start with Ryan. If you kind of just want to introduce yourself and just, kind of whatever is on your heart right now to just kind of get us started.
All right. Well, thank you for the wonderful introduction. So I became a therapist in 2016, and the landscape has just changed tremendously since I began, and especially the emphasis about how all of the social stressors like we're talking about the presidency that we just survived, the presidency that we're currently in, the racial tension that's been building across the country, the pandemic that's impacted all of us. What I expected my career to look like has changed pretty much weekly. And I think that it's made it really much more urgent for me to hone in on the people that are being impacted the most within this, which is always, of course, marginalized people, people of color, queer people, and especially our youth. And I especially just have a big soft spot for young people who are navigating through all of these changes without having any context for what normal is supposed to be. Having your lives constantly interrupted, dealing with thoughts and feelings that they're ill-equipped to deal with, not having enough support, resources, information, parents who are exhausted, who are being homeschool parents while holding down a job. Some of them are working in the public sector where they have to deal with COVID head on. A lot of people have dealt with a lot of death and loss. And I just know that there's not nearly enough support for everybody. So my goal today is, first of all, just to acknowledge that we being here, we've survived a lot just to be present today. So congratulations for however you've managed to make it to this moment, because it really hasn't been easy and not all of us have made it. So my hopes for today is just to increase the knowledge base, be able to create a space to talk about concepts that maybe you don't have another place or space to talk about these, learn some skills, and also connect the listeners to resources about how they can take their mental health to another place, and that we don't have to just permanently coexist in this place of like constant confusion and suffering.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ryan. Zeke, you want to hop on and just, let the people know who you are, what you're all about?
I mean, I'm here, I might as well, right? Peace, and bounty to everyone that's present today. I think it's really revolutionary that we showed up, that we cashed in our Saturday afternoon for this. So I want to show appreciation for that. Me as a lifelong student and teacher, I'm always ready to pick up a notepad and a pen and share my experiences and wisdom, so it's really an enjoyable experience to be here today. I hope to help the youth find their voice in expressing things that are difficult, no matter what those be, and even through that to find happiness in being a healthy human, whatever that looks like for you. We are such complex beings, but we do just a few things. And I want to really bring those to the forefront and center the way that we create mental wellness strategies around those, and especially in a culturally responsive way. So I understand that we as humans are all different. So as our youth are growing up in a world that is ever changing, almost like shifting sand, I want to allow them to take what it means to be a healthy human and be that as a pillar for them to be happy around. So I'm trying to make it the new norm for everyone to become happy again about being a healthy human.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Tansy, what's up?
Howdy, y'all. Yeah, I'm Tansy, she, they pronouns, and I attend Rainier Beach. And being there is really like, I love it. I love the school. I really do, honestly. But they really gotta, mental health is not really taken seriously everywhere. And it's kind of a bummer. And I'm just trying to find ways to help the students and people around me. And as a senior, and I'm also like in like this program where I'm supposed to help like the younger, like the little classmen, I don't know what to call them. And I just want to, you know, find ways to help them, be a guide for them going on to their freshman years and everything. And why not? Yeah. I can't find the words to explain, but I hope y'all understand what I mean.
Thank you so much, Tansy.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. Okay, Chikundi, I kind of want to start off with you because I heard you won a Shark Tank about a mental health app. So, like, you know, start off however you want, but I would definitely love for you to dive deeper into that and just what inspired you to do that.
Can you hear me good? Yeah. I would say what inspired me really because I think, well, actually, I'm a sophomore at Franklin High School, but basically what inspired me to do that was because my freshman year of high school, it was like a whole new playing field. I went to a K-8 school, so basically everyone in my grade were like family. And so going to like a new high school where most people went to like Mercer and Washington, I didn't know many people. And the added effect that it was online, I just felt very isolated and not very productive to like that. I wasn't the person I wanted to be. That's what I'm saying. And that Shark Tank app was kind of like a relieving of like emotions, because it was me and my friend made that app because that's what we wanted for ourselves during the pandemic, during the height of like 2020. And so really, like, we didn't really get too deep into like the actual concept, but we just wanted more resources, especially towards like mental health in young African American men, that like it's not a game out here. It's like really serious. And I made that concept to really wish that someone else that was my age that might be experiencing something like that would have something to not feel the way I was feeling.
So you hit something that stood out to me, mental health for African American men. I feel like there's definitely a stigma. So can you talk about more what it's like to, you know, really champion mental health as an African American male, and just, you know, do you feel like more apprehension because you are an African American male, like advocating for mental health, and like, do you feel, I know some of the words that I think of off the top of the head is like, you know, you're not supposed to cry. You have to be tough. You have to be strong, be the man of the house, right? So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I would say that the stigma around that would be kind of just toxic masculinity in general. And like, I do agree that um toxic masculinity, like relating to mental health at least, it very much hurts a lot of people that look like me, I would say, because I think not only in like sports but just in TV, it's just a way black men are kind of presented that kind of make me feel like I shouldn't cry, or that I shouldn't be scared, or that I shouldn't really have like I shouldn't express my emotions in a sense. Like I think there's always like, I think I heard it from like a Blackish episode or something, that like black guys don't go to like therapy or something. And I was like really young, and so I just kind of like isolate that in my mind that maybe I don't need therapy, maybe it's just me. But everyone has mental health problems. It's like unavoidable. And so I think that uh that kind of stigma needs to be kind of opened up for a lot of people. And that's why I'm here right now, basically.
Love it. Love it. Absolutely. Zeke, would love to hear your take.
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, Chikundi, for you to express something, A, from your childhood, and it to be something that has the weight of an entire culture on it, and for you to be able to frame that in such a digestible way in an area filled with people, I just want to congratulate you for being vulnerable and for holding up a positive resemblance of masculinity. What he is speaking about is very genuine, very true. It's something that we are not provided a structured education around, which is very odd because manhood in and of itself is not something that we're born into. So it requires, just like motherhood, becoming a mother, a very structured rearing, protocol. So when we don't have that and we have these internal thoughts, I mean, we've all heard the data, I'm sure, of how many thoughts we have a day. And even if we haven't heard the data, we've tried to combat with them as we switch from task to task or fulfill some sort of objective on the day. When we have those flowing through us as males and we don't have a structured sounding board, meaning males who are in a positive mindset about who they are and how to approach the world, it's very difficult to come to terms with what decision to make, right? So I think that if we can focus on being human first, and being human with our younger male children, then we can begin to open up all of these different channels that allow energy to flow back and forth of saying how I feel, why I feel that way, how to assess the world, and how to approach it in a way that allows me to achieve what I'm aspiring towards. And that can be just as simple as I've had a horrible day, I've seen something bad on the news, but I don't aspire to stay in this funk. I aspire to be in an attitude of gratitude, like Be Light said, right? So if that's the case, how do we create open channels of communication? Because that's really what it is. What we're doing here is sharing experiences, which are wisdom, to see how can we create solutions for one another. So Chikundi truly showed the example of what to do. Express what is difficult, express how you feel, express your prior knowledge and where that came from. He stated, and the reason I lifted him up like that is because he put something out there that very few others will do. They say, I watched this show that is in mainstream media, and I'm not judging you, Chikundi, but I watched this show in mainstream media and I took something from it and I internalized it. Do you know how difficult that is for a man to do in America? Especially a Black male in America? It's extremely difficult because there are so many stereotypes on how Black men should be portrayed in the media, how they are portrayed in the media, and how that damages the culture or does not uplift it. So if we continue to be honest about why we do things and where we learn those things, we can definitely figure out how to make a different decision to get to where we want to be. So I give it all up to the young man for that. I appreciate him showing me that there is beautiful light at the end of the tunnel.
Absolutely. So you hit on something that I feel like we should dive deeper into. And Ryan, I feel like you're the perfect person to ask. But Zeke was talking about expressing, right? Like expressing our emotions. I think that's a big component of mental health. A lot of times we keep everything logged in, right? And a lot of times we might not even have the words to express. So, what tools or techniques or advice might you have, Ryan, when it comes to expressing yourself?
Great question. And also thank you, Chikundi and Zeke, for your contributions. I want to go back one step because I think that there's something important to talk about. And it's some of the why. Why specifically Black people, Black men, and young people are struggling with these issues disproportionate to other people within our culture. And so it's important to acknowledge the legacy that slavery has left on our people and that we're still struggling to unpack the damages of that. And so what I want to start with is Black Americans are imbued with this need for safety at all times. And our access to what is safe is very limited based on what we have had access to historically. So we have had to survive by using whatever has worked the best. And what has worked the best is to be strong, silent, stoic, self-reliant, and getting your needs met within the community, because we haven't had access or trust or safety within maybe white enterprises, medical fields, and stuff like that. And over time, a lot of that type of help has become associated with whiteness, which can be very unsafe for people who are Black in this country. So I wanted to talk about the why a little bit, and there is a reason. And so it doesn't seem natural or doesn't seem safe to express feelings of vulnerability, weakness, or sadness. And a lot of people have learned from their families and their parents and their grandparents that that is not how we survive. So it can be very foreign and scary to think about externalizing things that everybody around you, all of your elders have modeled, never speaking about this in public. And so when I think about starting the process, I think about operating from a place of safety, finding a place, a person in which you have the luxury of being vulnerable with and being able to practice articulating your emotions and just practicing expanding the emotions that we have access to outside of mad, sad, happy, angry, disgusted. There's so many more emotions. But the first place is having places that we can actually express those emotions in fully. So the first thing that comes to mind is either a peer group or connections with older adults in your life. It could be parents, it could be family friends, that you feel safe enough to start having that conversation with. And when it comes to young people, I think that young people are really good at finding outlets outside of verbal ones to help express themselves. And I think that sports, music, and dance tend to be very accessible ways for people to express emotions. But maybe the thing that's missing is articulating the struggle that's also happening.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ryan. I feel like those are very good suggestions and options. So Tansy, I want to ask you if you kind of want to share what your mental health journey has been like, whatever you're comfortable with. Especially, I want to know from Tansy and from Chikundi, because I feel like this is very huge for the youth, but going through this pandemic, right? So, I mean, we always had to deal with mental health, but now we have to deal with mental health and like we're isolated. And, you know, like Chikundi was talking about, like we have to do classes online. So like we was already feeling like alone, right? And now this pandemic just, yeah, like I'm for sure alone. Like that's how I've felt. I've really been struggling through the pandemic, and I just am thankful for things like this because it really much helps. But Tansy, I would just kind of love for you to talk about your personal experience and, you know, what it's like been dealing with your mental health journey going through a pandemic.
Well, at first it started off like the pandemic. It was actually kind of really good for me because I've been around people who like I just didn't really vibe with, and I just like stayed there because I really have trouble letting go of people, and it kind of was really helpful to let those terrible people in my life go. But then it brought me into a really dark place, which was in my room all the time, not going outside, and mental health isn't really taken seriously in like the area I'm in, especially my household. So it was at start, it was amazing. And then it just became terrible. And when the height of all the protests and stuff happening, like I'm just scrolling and every day there's like another Black youth or somebody died, like somebody that looks like me going through it. It was just not good. And then when school started again, it got even worse because a lot of how do I put this? They're not really culturally sensitive at the school I go to. A lot of the teachers, they're mostly Caucasian or white or not Black. And they didn't really get an understanding of what it felt like to see that happening on the internet all the time. Like somebody that looks like me pronounced dead, and like getting desensitized to that all the time. Like I actually went to the protest as well, and like the tear gas and all this stuff. Like I seen people like get hit with like those rubber bullet things, which was not good at all. And like this pandemic is it had its good times and it had its very terrible places. And like like my grades, school, all that stuff, up and down, mostly down though. You understand what I'm saying? I feel like I'm not explaining myself correctly.
No, I definitely
Oh, okay.
100% understand. Absolutely. So, has there been any kind of like tools or techniques you've used specifically to kind of help you with your mental health? Like, for example, like, do you go on walks? Do you journal?
I'm not really good with expressing myself like with words. That's why I'm like asking y'all if I'm doing good. But I've been painting more. I've been like what's the word? When you vision boards. Those, oh my God. Like I have so many. Like I just been doing those like crazy. I've actually been able to go on walks and start like roller skating, skateboarding and whatnot. And I've been like throwing myself into like BSU, like making sure everything's good with that. Like whenever I'm like not feeling good, I'll be like, I can make this a lesson, you know? It's been good going there so far. And which is why I'm also here as well, because I want to be able to help the other Black students at my school with their mental health and everything like that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tansy. So Ryan, Tansy, touched on basically encountering people who are kind of insensitive and, not lacking awareness and not very comforting. And so I want to ask you, when you're in those kind of situations, how do you manage that? What do you feel like is best practices, best approach?
Oh, that's a tough one, because I think that the thing that especially our young people don't have is agency to opt out of those spaces. So if this is a teacher that is insensitive to what it feels like to have a Black body in this country, there's very little you can do to change that, and you still have to be in that environment. So I would always recommend just knowing that your truth is true, even if the people around you can't reflect or replicate it or help you in any sort of way. Something that's also coming up for me, and this is asking a lot, so take this or leave it if you don't have the capacity for this, but I try to approach those people with empathy and understanding that this is the definition of ignorance. This is somebody who does not know something. And I try to see that as kind of neutral as opposed to like a positive or negative. It's like, oh, this person doesn't have this information. They also have so much privilege that prevents them from having access to this information and seeing the world from our perspective. That I can't say it's not their fault, but it is what it is. And that we have other people that we can rely on to make connections with. Again, so that word survival comes up. So we still have to survive in these environments where we might have like a white teacher who's insensitive to what we're dealing with. And we still have to keep chugging along with homework and things like that. So just be mindful that that is problematic. It's wrong. We have a system that's not conducive to giving us the support we need. But a lot of our education we get outside of school. And there's so many different ways to make connections with people that can hold our stories and reflect us and honor us. And then for those of us who do have the option of having teachers that do reflect us, making connections with those teachers and seeing if there's an opportunity to maybe have a more intimate relationship with a teacher that does reflect you, who can hear you, who has the capacity for you. especially as a therapist, pretty much every Black therapist I know is just booked out completely because there is this increased need to be with adults who can understand and hold these unique experiences. So I can't say that it's easy to find. It does take a lot of work.
Absolutely. Zeke, do you have anything that you would like to add?
Yeah, certainly. I'm hearing from Tansy, and I want to acknowledge that she is lacking in a severe way adult support in an area where the point of bringing the child into, and I'm not calling you a little child, Tansy, I'm just speaking from an educator standpoint. When the child comes into the classroom, there's supposed to be an educator there to meet them, regardless of the experience. So I want to acknowledge that, because in order for us to raise and bring to the community polished stewards that can help us move forward towards our goals as a people, a collective people, we have to come up with strategies, not just to survive in these different classrooms where we feel unheard, unnoticed, and underappreciated for our trials of life, meaning when we become desensitized to the extreme rapidity of our people being slain. I want us to start thinking, how can we create strategies to thrive in these areas that have not changed for scores of decades? So since they haven't changed to this point, and this is why I'm so proud and happy to be here today, because I feel like mental health and mental wellness, it doesn't always have to have the drab effect that most of us don't like to address about it. We can inject some happiness and joy and energy in there when we try to adopt that attitude of gratitude. And in that sense of attitude of gratitude, when we come into an education arena where we know that the steward of education is not tending to me the same way that I see them tending to others, or that I feel is necessary for me to achieve my potential, then we must come into that situation in a way that will surpass that person, knowing that if they aren't there to receive or reciprocate the same energy, love, dedication, and compassion that is required for me as a young human dealing with the struggles in America and all its history, then we must create strategies with either peers, counselors, other community educators to come into that education arena and change those parameters so that we do not lose generation after generation. Especially since you're the leader of the Black Student Union, you are a crucial element to the rest of your students, your fellow, your fellow students, to their success. You are a sense of their strength. You are their pillar. You are who they will look towards for guidance, for answers, for care. And so we must take care of you in order to take care of them. So I would, outside of this, I would love to follow up with you to see how those things can be met, because you're speaking about something that must be addressed, right? You feel that there is a lack of support from the adults in your school because they do not have the cultural awareness that you need. So I think that we should work towards that. We're hearing something very clear from one of our children, and now let's try and create strategies and solutions to help them thrive in the situation that they're in.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Zeke. So, Chikundi, I have a specific question for you, and that is, how can we talk to our youth about mental health if our parents never did it with us? And so, I guess more specifically, was that the case for you? Did your parents really not talk to you about mental health? And what, if so, like, what was your process to be like, hey, this is something that needs to be talked about?
Well, I would say that I didn't really talk to my parents about my mental health issues because of, again, the media and how I didn't think that it was a real issue. And what I have to really say is that how we should present like mental health issues into the mainstream for youth like me would really just to like present solutions that would relate to them. I would feel that like because everyone went through the same thing. Like we all did online school, we all missed our friends, we all just we all struggled. And I would say that relating to that in some kind of fashion or way, that would be a big way that we could help out youth in this like time really. I do think that it's getting better. Like I've gotten better because like I've seen my friends again. I've made new friends at school, but I would say that baggage is still kind of there. Just it's definitely there, and I'm not quite sure yet how I can personally deal with it. Like I've been doing like meditation, I've been going to the gym more, I've been just doing stuff like that to really get my mind off of it. But I personally do not, I'm not quite sure how I can let go yet.
Okay. So, do you talk to your parents about your mental health more now, or still not really?
Um, I would say not really because I I f- mm, I don't really talk to them about it like a lot because I like to think that I'm better now. But I would say I do have people out there who care about me, who like I do talk about mental health. Like especially I talk to my friends about mental health because they went through the same thing as me, so they would understand immediately what I meant by a lot of stuff that I'm talking about, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you feel like there's like an age barrier that your parents aren't going to understand the situation because they're not you, they didn't grow up in this era?
Yeah, of course. Like I do totally think that because online school is a very specific thing to my generation right now. And so I would say that was like it's difficult because I started online school when I was in 8th grade. So it's not like I could just go outside, have fun, go see my friends because like I was still like a very young kid who didn't really um uh could you repeat the question again?
You're good. You're totally good. Just you know, if you were more open to talking with your parents now, and then yeah, if there was a barrier. So it sounds like to me that there's like a barrier, right? And so you're trying to process that. So let's go to let's give you a break because I know these are kind of tough questions, and thank you for
Yeah.
being vulnerable. And again, and whatever you all are comfortable with. And if you don't want to answer a question, you definitely do not have to. This is all a choice. But Zeke had his hand raised, and then we'll go to you, Ryan. But Zeke, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for acknowledging me. I try not to put my hand up, but I saw that the brother stated something, and I wanted to bring it to his awareness because perhaps he was not aware when he said it. You're using very healthy strategies um, to help you move through the coping phase of this stress and mental anxiety, mental anguish, and just this sort of rockier path that we're going through right now. So by using meditation in the gym to get your mind off of it, you can never get through it. So those are amazing strategies. You're talking to someone that lives to make the human body healthier and more capable and more resilient. So those are amazing strategies. I do them both. But what we also want to add into that to create a holistic program to get you to where you want to be with a clearer mindset and a clearer chest is to come up with strategies that allow you to work through those difficulties. Okay. And it's not going to be easy. You're talking to somebody that, and I plan to interact with you more later, but you're talking to somebody that has many years of overcoming some very difficult and dark spaces. And it does take going through those in a very methodical way to understand, why does this cause my skin to, prickle? Why does this make it difficult to sleep at night? Why does this make my chest tight? And when we assess those things, we come up with strategies to help us cope, heal, and then manage that trauma. So I want you to write those down if you have something you can take notes with, but it's very important that this is a process of how we move through trauma, is that first we're coping in the moment. After that initial interaction, right? After that initial onset of this trauma, then we have to figure out how to heal from that. We've got to allow the body, or that wound, that soul wound, to come back together. And then once we've done that, now we start working through with principles and practices to help us manage moving forward through life, so that we don't stumble, and so that that wound doesn't come open again from the same, the same sort of tool, right, that's used by someone else. So we want to cope, we want to heal, and then we want to manage. And this is something that I'm completely open to working with you with, creating a program around, and being a mentor with you around, because it's very important. The process is not easy or short, but it does work, and it works well. So I just wanted to deliver that, because resources are very important, and I believe speed of implementation is key. So I hope that that is of benefit to you and to everyone. That is a process that's not just for Chikundi or males of color. This is a process for anyone who is dealing with pain, trauma, or past difficulties. It's just a process to help us move through with a protocol.
Ashe, thank you so much, Zeke. Ryan?
Yeah, again, I'd like to go back just one step. There's something that feels that it's missing from this particular question of how to talk about mental health, especially if you've come from parents that also didn't. So this is addressing the adults in the room who are the parents or caretakers of young people. And a lot of these people have not learned ever how to talk about vulnerability, to talk about what they're struggling with. And they've learned that doing so makes them weak and vulnerable and a target. And again, that comes back from this place of survival. So our young people are already dealing with enough. So I would like to invite that adults to take some of the burden off of your young people by modeling vulnerability, truth, and honesty first. And maybe what that truth looks like is, hey, child, I don't know how to do this either. I never learned how to do this. This is unsafe for me. I don't know, like I need help sometimes. I need a therapist. I need a meditation practice. But I realize that I need to start doing this work for me now so I can help you. Enough's enough. It's time to break the generational chain of not talking about this. And it's going to start with me. And as a therapist, I completely believe that just being vulnerable and open to somebody and giving them space to exist is power. That's the biggest gift we can give everybody. But I can also validate that for people who have survived their whole life without using vulnerability, openness, and honesty, maybe that's the last thing you want to do in front of your child, because maybe you've internalized a value that who you're supposed to be for your child is strong and that you can do everything without help. So that's the first place that I think the work needs to start, is adults need to also seek out structure, tools, skills, and communities in which they can learn how to be vulnerable people so that their children don't have to do all the work.
Yes, and you answered the next question exactly. What do adults do if they feel like they can't be vulnerable? So that was great. I feel like honesty is the best policy, right?
It can also be really scary, especially if honesty can be kind of a gray thing. Like there's lies of omission where you don't share things without maybe necessarily lying. And so I think it takes a lot of practice to learn how to operate in a space of vulnerability. So for a lot of us, when we start trying to speak our truth, our body takes over with like really big responses to that. A lot of us start shaking, our voice will start to quake. We can start sweating, maybe we start flushing. It feels unsafe. And our bodies really like, we respond to that feeling of lack of safety. And a lot of people will go into freeze. Maybe they will like silence themselves. Maybe they will retreat and hide or isolate. And so it takes a lot of practice to learn that that discomfort is just discomfort. It's a feeling that we're having, and there's life after that feeling. And we can train ourselves to move through those feelings of discomfort and find the values that vulnerability really does have for us, to be able to like bare our whole heart to somebody and know that they're going to hold us. But it's not something you can do just because you want to do it. It takes practice, and we have to have a safe space in which to practice to make that possible.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You just hit it right on the head. I absolutely love that. So my question is for you, Zeke, and Ryan, is when do you, what are are there indicators when, you know, youth need to seek out actual professional help versus, you know, just kind of trying to talk it out with their family or their friends? Ryan, if
I'll jump on this. Right. So, and I saw some questions in the comments that kind of made me think about this question as well. And somebody, so if it's okay, I'm going to reference something that somebody said in the comments of, hey, is there something wrong if I'm noticing that I'm spending 5 to 6 hours by myself without talking to anybody? So I also obviously can't assess or diagnose anybody in this capacity right now, but that could be a sign. There could be a few things going on there. So as a mental health professional, one of the things I look for is social withdrawal as a sign of a bigger mental health condition. However, I want to be clear about this. Some people are just introverted and need to have downtime for themselves to recharge, and that can be okay. What I would pay attention to is if this is a big deviation from how the person normally is. Maybe they're very extroverted and exuberant and hands-on, and now they're spending a lot of time in their room. They're not connecting with their friends, they're ignoring phone calls and emails, and they're withdrawing more and more and more. Other things that are really important to pay attention to is when a child starts verbalizing that they feel like a burden, that this is too hard, they want this to end, they don't see a way out, and they just want relief. So if your child is able to articulate those things, like if they're isolating, you may not be privy to that coming up for your youth. So any signs of just detachment in the sense of wanting relief from this place, I would consider to be serious red flags. And that might need to have an assessment with a school therapist, a mental health professional, a psychiatrist. And the first thing I would look for is there a risk of harm? Is this child thinking about taking power over their situation by harming themselves or possibly ending their life? So those signs I always take very seriously. And it can be a delicate thing to approach this with seriousness while not freaking out the kid either. So that's a hard one. And I feel like that's a case by case basis. But if ever you're noticing something that you find alarming, as an adult, reach out for more information and help. It's never a problem to bring in more help than you need.
Yes, just due to time, because I really do want us to try and answer all the questions that were in the chat. So Natalie, can you throw me a question that maybe we can give to Zeke?
Yeah, so Ryan answered the first one. Angela asked, my question, most of the time my mind gets disturbed and it makes me avoid people around me only to be alone in a silent place without any disturbances. What could be the problem?
Yes, so first and foremost, thank you for being brave and putting that question out there. You're definitely not the only person that deals with that. Whether anybody else admits it, I will raise my hand to it. So I would first say, be compassionately curious with yourself of, is it a way to rest and recover so that you can go back out into the world and deliver and reach your full potential of that day? Or is it a way to pull away and sort of hide from all that the world is requesting of you? One thing that's very important is Ryan brought up an amazing point, is our bodies, and I teach this a lot, is our bodies will have a reaction before we can stop it. When we're nervous, when we're anxious, like I begin to sweat. I perspirate, right? I don't know where that came from in my ancestry, but that's what happens. And unless I engage in some form of strategy like deep breathing to control my heart rate and stop the pores opening, I won't be able to deal with that. So if you're getting this onrush from individuals in the world that are calling you to provide or to bring out energy, and you're not able to do that, and recoiling or extracting yourself from that situation into a room is not a beneficial strategy, meaning it's not intentional. You're not saying, I'm going in here so I can finish my work, I can focus on this, and then I can come back out and be my full self. Then we want to figure out strategies to where you can express to the world to say that at this very moment, I'm not capable of taking on all of that. And I know this sounds very easy, but it becomes easier with practice. At this moment, world, I'm not able to take on all of that. I do have these priorities to handle. What you're telling me is very important. If I can handle my priorities first, I can serve you in the way that you want me to, and that's why you came to me. So if the way that we're going into that space is not in a constructive manner to recover and come back out, let's just try and nip it in the bud and address them first. Perhaps by addressing them, they will become aware of how them asking, maybe it's at a rapid rate, is affecting you. And until they're made aware of that, they may not stop, right? So just try to do so in a way of love, in a way of care, and first and foremost, a way of compassion for yourself, because you deserve that. You deserve to have the space and the place for you to achieve your full manifestation. So I would really ask, as we go through these questions, if you could drop it back in the chat to see if it's being done in a constructive way. Because if it is, you're totally fine. Take your time. If not, let's try the other strategy, and let's build up to that if you're not capable at this moment.
Ashe. Ryan, you're on mute.
I knew that was going to happen. I'm going to try to keep this short so we can keep rolling with the question. So to broaden this question out a little bit to like what happens when we're like bombarded with lots of thoughts in our head, maybe negative self-talk, maybe we're ruminating about something, thoughts that we can't let go of. I'm going to tell you the secret to therapy right now. So when we have these thoughts going on, we are in our own echo chamber and we only hear this voice going around, and it's reinforcing every time it goes around the loop. The way psychotherapy works is that we invite somebody to have an external perspective of our internal dialogue, and they have the opportunity to interrupt the spirals that we go into and give us external context for what's going on. We are deeply socialized creatures. We are very dependent on each other. And I do think that there's a lot of value into taking some time to be with your thoughts and feelings. But we are like, you really do benefit from having an unbiased external perspective to challenge some of the thoughts that are coming up for you and help you make sense of like why they're coming up and whether or not these thoughts are rational and valid right now. And so I thought I would sneak that in there just because like a lot of people wonder like, what's the value in just going to talk to somebody when I can like just think about this on my own? You are just going to go around the drain over and over and over again. You have to have somebody else who's not in your head, who has a different perspective to interrupt those thoughts and give you new perspective.
That is facts. Absolutely. Natalie, do we have another question?
Yes, I was on mute. Sorry about that. Norma asked, how can I start talking about mental health with my kids?
Do we have anybody who wants to take this one?
I can repeat some things I said earlier, which I think are still pretty valid. Maybe start by doing some self-reflection about your own mental health, what you know about it, tools and skills that you utilize, if any, and then approach your child with honesty, vulnerability, and openness. And this is a practice as well. It may be very unfamiliar for your child for you to approach them in such a vulnerable way, and they may be like, what's happening here? I don't know what's going on. And you yourself, I invite you to be in your own awkwardness. And especially if you've never done this before, say that. You know, I've never had this conversation before, so I don't know how this is going to go, but I want to talk about mental health today. You know, how are you doing right now? What, you know, like, do you feel like you need any extra support? What is it like to be at school? Is there something that you just want to say that you don't have a space to say it? And there's no pressure to be a professional. Vulnerability is your ticket.
Shay, Natalie, we have another question.
I think Tansy had her hand up.
Oh, okay. Tansy?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I didn't invite them to do like their own shadow work on themselves, like figure out what's going on. Why do they feel like they can't be vulnerable with their own child, you know? Like, because I noticed like a trend, like it's usually like generational trauma. So like maybe have an open conversation with their own parent if they're still alive or something, or like figure out like what's like the root of everything going on, and then come to your child with open and honesty. Like honesty is really the key to all this, like seriously. And like, I don't know, just be vulnerable with your own kids and yourself, like what Ryan said.
Thank you, Tansy. Chikundi?
Well, to relate to this, Ryan said something earlier that really resonated with me, that when like your kids open up about their mental health, don't make them feel like they're being like attacked, or don't make them feel like they are, like it's their fault that this is happening. Just be completely vulnerable, because like when children and when like the youth, when I'm like vulnerable, I hate when when people tell me that I'm vulnerable when I know I'm vulnerable. You know what I mean? And so I would say, what Ryan said about that, I would say that that would be very helpful, is just completely be open with your child, and just really like just just be open about it, and don't make it feel like it's their fault.
Yeah, love it. Thank you all. Natalie, any more questions?
Another one. I don't go exploring my thoughts. Oh, well, this is from Yvonne. I don't go exploring my thoughts and feelings very often, good or bad, and I live in my daily life almost instinctively, my parents' vocabulary. I feel like this lifestyle is working for me and that it's helped me more than it has harmed me. But does this practice have potential to lead to problems later on in life?
Ryan, seems like you.
Yeah, I can speak to this. So again, like this is general feedback. I would have some deeper questions for the person who asked this. I think that a lot of us get into really comfortable rhythms in which we learn our lives. And sometimes we learn that maybe it's safer not to go poking or turning over rocks that we haven't turned over before. My belief is that we really do benefit from knowing ourselves as well as we can, and understanding the nuances of our own brain, and being able to articulate the depths of our feelings and experiences. There's some research that says that correlation to like knowing ourselves is correlated to better mental health overall. The thing that really stuck up about this question is there avoidance going on? Are these feelings uncomfortable? So you have learned to fall into a pattern where you don't engage with these thoughts or feelings directly because it feels unsafe. So a long-term pattern of avoidance can be a problem. It could lead to mental health issues. Some people have issues of dissociation, which means they feel very disconnected from their body and sometimes mind at times in their lives. And people feel like they're living through autopilot because maybe they're too afraid to engage. So that's what stood out to me about that question. Everything in balance, though, I think that it's also appropriate sometimes to just find routines that we can lose ourselves in and maybe not think too hard. That's me if I'm like doing the dishes and stuff, like I'm listening to music, I'm just moving through, I'm not doing a lot of deep thought. So if you notice that like you're afraid of those thoughts, that's where I would lean in.
Does anyone else want to touch on that? Okay, Natalie, do we have another question?
Yes. Amy asks, is low self-esteem linked with mental health?
Zeke, do you want to take a stab? You're muted.
Yeah, for sure. Anything that we project of ourselves is going to come from the mind. So this is definitely inner thoughts rambling around. This is where I think, and of course, this is not my lane. And always when we're speaking about someone's vision, or projection of themselves, we want to figure out what has led up to that. You know, what are the factors that have created, that have fertilized, you know, this life form to come about, right? So again, this is very surface level, but to answer your question, yes, this is dealing directly with mental health. And having low self-esteem can negatively trend on your mental health, and developing strategies to have a higher sense of self, more self-composure, and more self-worth and self-belief. These are ways that you trend towards positive mental health, or a healthy balance of mental health. What I've heard a lot, and I think this will help, is that no matter where we are or when we are there, we can start afresh, right? So if you have low self-esteem and that's your starting point right now, if we have resources available now, if we have experts available now, let's figure out how we can connect to figure out a strategy that works directly for you to help you rid yourself of that negative feeling or that negative projection of yourself.
Thank you, Zeke. Natalie, do you have another question? I know we're kind of just going through them, but I want to try and answer as many as we can, and we're running out of time.
Yeah, for sure. Next one would be Celine. Sometimes when I need help and reach out to people, I think I can help and they don't know, I just feel low. Like they don't know that how to help me, or if I'm not good enough, it hurts. And I tend to keep it to myself, feeling like nothing to do, feeling not good enough to do anything socially. What can I do?
I just want to personally say we are all already enough, and we are all valid because we're human beings and we are of life, and we don't literally have to do anything. This is what my grandma says. I don't have to do anything but stay black and die. And so understand that, you know, doing things doesn't give us validation. We are already valid because we are from the creator and we are of life. So we are always enough no matter what. I want to say that. But great question. Who would like to answer it?
I love this one. So a couple things came up for me. One, so I'm having an idea that by the time we know that we need to talk to somebody, we're already in an agitated state and our brain isn't grounded and we're spiraling already. So this is a tip for everybody. Before you are in that place, write down a list of 3 people that you trust, that you would want to reach out to in a time of vulnerability to process with. Do this when you're not activated, because your brain is not going to be available when you're in that spiral. And the second thing is, I think that we, as the person who needs help, have a lot of opportunity to ask for what we need. So if you happen to know what you need in that moment, like just having an ear to listen to you, say, hey, I've got some thoughts going through my head. Can you just listen to me right now and just be a sounding board for me? And if that's what you need, then that person has the direction that they need to know how to support you. Or maybe you need advice. Hey, I'm really struggling with how to make this decision. Can you give me feedback? So asking for what you need from that person rather than expecting the person to know how to care for you, because most people aren't licensed counselors and don't know how to field those questions. So do your best to ask for the type of help you need from that person that you've designated.
Thank you for that, Ryan. Natalie, I feel like we have time for maybe 2 more questions.
Yep, and those will be perfect last 2 questions that I've got. So Celine asked you, how do you explain to a child why she is or they are the way they are? Maybe they feel that they're inferior to someone that doesn't look like them, i.e. like examples of hair color, length, like features or things like that.
Zeke, would you like to answer that?
Yes, of course. I would first challenge the way that it was put in explaining to the child, and first explore why the child feels that. Right? We're human, and that child is human. So we want to understand where this unformed life form has gotten this projection of itself. That's very important that we find out that answer, because then we can figure out how to either limit or eliminate that source of negativity into that child. As that child continues to grow, that child can be reared and made aware of how large the world is and how there are different opinions. But if we don't root out that at such a young age, and understand those feelings that are rising up in that child, this is why I continuously say, let's be compassionately curious, first with ourselves, but with others. And like Ryan said, be empathetic. Perhaps, and she used this in a different way, but when you use empathy, you're not so quick to emotionally respond or emotionally react, and you're able to respond. You're able to engage and become in relationship with that other human to figure out what works for them and why they came or why they arrived at this certain mental point. So I would change that from explaining to a child why they are valid and explore the things that make them feel like they are not.
Yeah. Let's find the why behind the what. We have time for 1 more question. What would that be, Natalie?
And the last question steers towards the end is from Eric. What are some suggestions to encourage youth to access professional help? And maybe a young person can share what has worked for them.
Okay, Tansy or Chikundi, do you have any answer for this?
Could the question be repeated?
Can you repeat the question, Natalie?
Yes, can you hear me? Okay. What are some suggestions to encourage youth to access professional help? And maybe you could share what has worked for you. So other than creating your own app, obviously.
Well, I think there's a lot of resources out there that are completely free or just require very little amount of money. But when mental health comes in question, it's all about effort at that point. Because you can pay for a subscription to a meditation app on your iPhone. But if you don't use that effectively to better have self-mindedness, or then you can't really, it's worthless to you. And so I would say that a way for us to get those kind of resources in an easy way, I would say just really what Zeke said earlier. You have to cope, heal, then manage. Really, you have to cope with the damage that the pandemic in online school kind of did to you. So really reflect on that. Maybe try multiple things at this point. Be very open to things like meditation, going to the gym, going on walks, and really just learn to reflect on things before you can like heal. And so I would say, yeah, just start, going on walks, go outside more, maybe pick up a hobby. I would say, like, just ways to make you feel like your day has meaning, ways that make you feel more productive. Yeah. At least
Yeah.
in my opinion.
That's great. You're totally spot on. You gotta, like Nike, just do it, right? It's hard sometimes, but what I've learned when being in my depression is doing nothing got me absolutely nothing. And it wasn't until I decided to do something. Now, I decided to do something when I felt I was ready. So I'll be honest, like there's been times I've been in bed for 2 weeks, did not take a shower for 2 weeks, did not brush my teeth for 2 weeks. And I came to the conclusion that, hey, I don't like how this feels and I don't want the rest of my life to feel like this. So I have to do something different. And so when I was in therapist, my therapist, she gave me the advice of just setting simple goals. So I had just 3 simple goals. My goals were to get out of bed, to brush my teeth, and to take a shower. Like if I did those 3 things, my day was a success. Like that's the only way I measured my day. So like, that wasn't completing my work. That wasn't, eating healthy. That wasn't going on a walk. It was just doing those 3 things. And like once I was able to accomplish those, I got my confidence up. And then it was okay, go on a walk every day. Okay, check your emails for an hour every day. Okay, join a group, read a book. Like I was able to add things because when you look at it in its totality, right, it feels like it's way too much. It's like, oh my God, why even try? Because it's impossible. But it's literally small, simple steps. It's one step at a time. And when you start to become consistent, the key also is consistency, that you're going to get results for sure. Tansy, is there anything you want to add? Tansy, you're on mute.
I'd say like keep promoting like all the mental health counselors and everybody around them that is willing to help, because like they got to know at least that there is somebody in their corner if they need something to fall back on at all. And just keep like helping them explore like what are their interests, what are their hobbies, like can this turn into like therapy for yourself, because therapy is not like one thing for everybody, one size fits all, like help people understand like what I'm sorry, I'm gonna say her name, I'm gonna butcher her name. I'm sorry, how do you say her name?
Chikundi.
Okay. Yeah. Chikundi. Like what he said, like get yourself outside, pick up a hobby, do something, but also understand that you don't have to be like have productivity every day. Take breaks. Because I know for myself personally, I will work like hours on end, day after day after day, till my body is sore, just so I can feel like I did something with my day. But you don't have to do something all the time, because then you're just going to overwork yourself. Your brain's going to go into override. And that's not good as well either, And yeah, that's all I got to say. Just promote mental health. Let it be known that you can take breaks, and also get out the house.
Can I jump on before the end? Yes to everything I'm hearing. I love what B-Light said about starting small and building up. Awesome. The professional help angle, I will talk a little bit about that. Find a therapist that reflects you if at all possible. If you are paired with a white therapist, vet them, ask them questions, make sure that they have any, like that they're not going to cause you more harm than help. There are very few Black therapists in this area, and I can absolutely appreciate that. But it's also important to find somebody that you vibe with. Just because they're a Black person doesn't mean that they're the right fit for you. Like I found a therapist with tattoos, and that meant a lot to me. I was like, oh, I can be even more of myself here. So try to find somebody that you would want to build that relationship with. And the closer that somebody is to your identities, the better.
Absolutely. Before we go, Zeke, do you have any last things you want to say?
Yes, very quick here. If everyone can take quick notes, this will take about 60 seconds. I'm going to drop the 3 A's on getting yourself into your full manifestation. First and foremost, what are your aspirations? Take 10 minutes today to write them down. Don't limit them. Just what are your aspirations for this year and for your life? The second one is, what are the activities that I can begin doing today, this week, and this month to get me there? So we have aspirations and the activities. The third one is very crucial, very important, and it should come from an organic local sector as well as a professional sector like Ryan, is who are our acquaintances? And are these assets that will propel us towards our aspirations, or are these liabilities that will derail us from achieving our aspirations? So again, we have our aspirations, we have the activities that will help us arrive at those aspirations, and we have a second factor that will help us get there, and that's who we are surrounding ourselves with. Those in our family, our friends, our peeps, and those who can professionally help us get out of our mind and get out of our own way. The 3 A's, I guarantee it will work. It's not an overnight success, but it will put you on the path to become your best.
Absolutely. Ashe, infinite gratitude for you all, for you, Tundi, for you, Chikundi, for you, Ryan, for you, Zeke. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Lydia, and she has some dope resources for you guys, because we want results out of this. So we want to help.
Awesome. This has been an amazing conversation, and the time, we are right up to the minute, but what we want to do is let the community know that the conversation doesn't have to stop here. First of all, I want to thank our amazing panelists. You guys far exceeded, what we even thought this panel would be. Great conversation, great dialogue. Thank you to the event planners, myself, Natalie, Zyna, behind the scenes crew. Thank you to the Fred Hutch, Seattle Urban League, and the other sponsors that have helped make our vision come to light. I want to also empower you all to continue looking for resources. The urbanleague.org /Healthy Black Minds has resources. There's continuing to be, including this video, there will continue to be other resources uploaded. The YMCA has free youth counseling. So if you email Zyna, which her email is here, on the screen here, if you email her, she will get you in contact with the YMCA. Please, please, please don't let the conversation stop here. Know that there are resources. This is just part 1. We will continue this conversation, so please be on the lookout for a later date webinar. Again, please email Zyna with any questions, any concerns, any questions or things that you didn't want to ask or that didn't get asked today. And her email is zbakari@theurbanleague.org. And Be Light, I'll let you take it away.
Infinite gratitude to you all. And yeah, shout out to Lydia, Zyna, and Natalie. You guys are amazing. Behind the scenes would not be possible. Shout out to everybody. I want everybody who participated, who was audience member, who was in panel, just give yourself a hug. Like, give yourself a hug, because this was so dope. I vote for a part 2. If y'all want a part 2, please drop it in the chat, because I think we definitely need a part 2. I think we need to make this a series, like 100%. And I think, I should be the host of it, right? But this was so great, so great. So I'm gonna end it off. So I have some poetry to end it, and then we're done. We're logged off. So feel free to follow me on Insta. I dropped it at BeLight222. I'm all into numbers, 222, powerful. This is our year, guys. This is our year. But this piece is called Let Go. I don't got all the answers, but I do know, as a matter of fact, my heart bleeds black, that love is something I lack, that I feel lost and my soul is gone. Actually, that's wrong. My soul is here. It's just in fear of the unknown, so it hides in the shadows, consumed by the darkness. My outer flesh starts to harden. I can no longer feel. Therefore, I cannot gauge the pain of others when they suffer. So I am doomed to solitude, all alone. an existential crisis. My thoughts aren't the nicest. My migraine widens every second. Seems like the agony of defeat, feeling as though I am sinking to the bottom of the sea. And the water is endlessly deep, but somehow I can still breathe, trying to comprehend what this all means. Why am I not dead? Why don't I listen to the voices in my head? Is it my soul trying to tell me there's more, trying to lead me away from the path I was headed towards, telling me I can go a different way, learn from my mistakes, show myself grace, and know it's okay. It's okay to be in this state, just not to stay in this state. Process it all and then move on. As of today, the past cannot be changed. Nothing can be done about things that have already happened. So I focus on the future and the steps needed to get there. I channel my inner light and the darkness disappears. My heart now glows from the light in my soul. I set my goals. Step 1, ready, set, let go. Peace, ashe, love and light to you and yours, always and forever. Remember to always be kind to yourself, y'all. Peace.